Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my series check-in, so wrapping up the months of April, May and June, and then my TBR and plans for the next 3 months, so July, August and September. This is coming a little bit late because there's no real reason why this is late. I just hadn't managed to get this up until like the middle of July, so some things I'm already working on and we are, already into this quarter, but it is what it is. It is what it is, better late than never. Editing Abby here, just to say that I'm very sorry for some of the background noise in this video. It was a very noisy day for the planes, very noisy, and I kept having to stop and start and stop and start for the planes, but there are some bits where the planes are just, you can just hear them, so very sorry about that. Okay, so in the last quarter, I didn't do very well at finishing things. Well, I did finish a couple of things, but I did start a lot of things. I think because I did a lot of work at reading some of my self-destructing books and like some of my older TBR, and I started a few things, and I did read quite a few new things as well, that I didn't do an amazing job of finishing things, apart from the month of April. April, I did a very good job of finishing things because that's when I finished 2 series, so all the work that I did on completing things was done in April. Also, I will link the series for this all down below. If you've not seen one of these before, I don't really run through any synopses, but I will link all of my wrap-ups if you want more detailed thoughts on any of the books, so they will be there. I'm just going to be glossing over the books and moving along quite quickly, as otherwise we'll be here all day. So April, I did manage to finish the Blackthorn and Grimm series by Juliette Marillier. So that is the second book, Tower of Thorns, and the third book, Den of Wolves, nicely wrapping the series up. The first book in the series is Dreams Pool, which I read in March, and I absolutely have adored this series, absolutely loved it, would highly recommend. And Juliette Marillier as a whole, for like fairy tale foresty, atmospheric fantasy set in Ireland, so would definitely recommend this one. And that finished this series. April was one of my worst reading months in terms of quantity, but the quality and in terms of wrapping series up, I did well, because also that month I finished the War of Lost Hearts series by Chris Broadbent. This is Mother of Death and Dawn, so a bit of a chunky one, and this was my final Chris Broadbent. I'm now up to date with all of her books. She's a fantasy romance author, but I think she leans more on the fantasy aspects and has a really solid fantasy plot lines through her books. I would say in general I prefer her other series, the Chronicles of Nyaxia, so The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is her more latest publication, but I did overall really enjoy this, and it was a solid conclusion to the series. That is everything that I finished. So it was something, but I don't think it was as productive as my first quarter. Oh no, it was pretty similar. It was actually pretty similar looking back on my notes from the first quarter. Anyway, that's 2 series finished. I'm a little bit behind, I guess, my target, potentially, because I would like to be finishing 10 series in the year, or I mean ideally more than that, and I think I've only finished 4, so a little bit behind. So I need to actually get myself into gear a little bit and wrap up a few more series. I need to get to work. And then in terms of continuations, I did continue in 1 series, so not many, but I read the 4th book in the Veronica Speedwell series, so A Dangerous Collaboration. I've been slowly working my way through this series this year, so I started it in, I think it was January, read the first one, and then I was doing roughly 1 book a month. I've sort of fallen a little bit off that bandwagon because I couldn't find the 5th book here in the UK. I have now acquired it, I got it on my holiday to the US, so I have picked that up, and I do have 6, 7 and 8 already tucked away on my TBR, so now I can continue in a good pace. But I did in this past quarter read book 4, which was my favourite so far in the series. So I actually did a video on self-destructing books, or read or unhaul books that have been on my TBR for a very long time. I did a self-destructing TBR, which was inspired by Becca and the books last year, and then I realised 11 months down the line that I hadn't read, well, I'd only read 1 of the 5 books, so I needed to read 4 of them within the space of a month, otherwise they were gone. So I do have a few books from that, or series from that. So one of them being the Book of Night. I don't know what this series is called, but this is the first book in the duology by Holly Black. This one was my favourite from that video, so spoiler for that video, but this one was my favourite, and I did enjoy this one, and I am looking forward to continue on in this series. And then also from that I read The 3-Body Problem, which I don't think I'll be continuing on in that series. I found it fine. I'm glad I read it. Happy to have read that one, but I won't be continuing on that series, so that one I have DNF'd. The 3-Body Problem I did finish, but I also had 7 Devils, which I didn't finish. I only made it 100 pages into that one, so that one I DNF'd without finishing it. But another one I tempted. And then just to round out the DNFs, I also had A Promise of Fire by Amanda Boucher, which I got about 100 pages into, and that one I decided to give up on. So there were quite a few that I started and decided that I wasn't going to continue on with. So they were new, but they're not new and staying. So the only one that I've talked about so far that's new and staying is Book of Night. Continuing with books that I am up to date in now, that I read that first book and it was a new release or the series hasn't been continued yet. I did also start Saga of the Unfated by Danielle L. Jensen, so this first book being A Fate Inked in Blood. So this is a Viking inspired fantasy romance. We'll be continuing on with the series. I enjoyed it. It's not my favourite, but I did enjoy it, had a solid time with it, 4 stars type thing. Would recommend it, I would say. But yes, this one, and then another fantasy romance that I read the first book in, and there's no news yet on the sequel, is the When the Moon Hatched. This is like the Moonfall series. I don't know how many books are going to be in it. I think potentially a trilogy, but again, a fantasy romance. I think this one did a good job of like balancing those elements, probably a bit more on the fantasy side and having some very interesting world building. So excited to continue on with this, but it won't be for a while because this says like autumn 2025 for the next book's release. So very much up to date for now. And then one where the sequel is out and the third book comes out in early 2025 is The Helm of Midnight by Marina Lostetta. I'm not sure, the 5 Penalties series. This one I absolutely loved. This is an old book off my TBR which I picked up and would highly recommend this one. I really enjoyed it. Like epic fantasy with an interesting magic system to do with these helmets. When you die, your psyche can go into that helmet and then people can continue to use your skills. But there's one of them is of a serial killer and his helmet has been stolen and now these murders are happening again. So really enjoyed this one, would recommend it. And yeah, like a highlight of the series that I start, and I really hope book 2 lives up. I haven't bought it yet. I do need to buy it and then hope to continue on with this series, potentially in the next quarter. I actually haven't written that book down, but actually potentially I just didn't write it down because I don't own it, but probably should have. Okay, so those are all of the things that I did in the last quarter, the things that I finished, continued and started. So a good few bits and pieces there. Now moving into some of my plans and things I would like to achieve and get up to in the months of July, August, September. Obviously some of these I have already done because we are midway through July as of filming this. So there are some series that I would like to continue on with. Once again, I would like to continue on with The Stormlight Archive and read Rhythm of War. I did start this in the last quarter in April. I got to page 224 and then I put it down and I just haven't come back to it yet. And I will. I was struggling with it. Like I was really enjoying what I was reading, but I wasn't finding the time to read. And then I was reading like 10 pages a day and it wasn't a good experience. So I put it down and then I just haven't gone back to it yet. But I do need to. I just find this book really daunting. And I don't know whether to like, how I can make it less daunting for myself. I don't know, like I've read long books before. I've read long books, I've read fantasy books. Like I don't know why this one I'm so struggling to like pick it up because I am daunted to read it. Maybe the expectations of it, maybe it was like Oathbringer as well, because that one took a lot out of me reading it and took a long time. Like it took me like 3 weeks to get to here. 3 weeks. And I didn't read anything else during that time. And it got to the point where I was like, I'm gonna have to put this down. I'm gonna have to put this down because I'm not getting any headway. No headway. So I need to find a way to make this work because I do want to read it. I do. It just hasn't worked yet. Other series that I would like to continue in and a bit less daunting. I now have the 5th book in the Veronica Speedwell series, so A Murderous Relations. So I would like to read this, potentially also read more of it because I've got 6, 7 and 8, but that might be a bit of like an intense read because I've been trying to space these out. I definitely do want to finish all of the published books by the end of the year, or at least I don't know when book 9's paperback is coming out because I know that hardback came out earlier this year. So at least like get somewhere up to date with it. And I also have no idea how many books are going to be in this series, and I would love to know. I would love to know if there is like news on if it's going to be like 10 books, 12 books, so then I know like how much more is ahead of me. But for now I definitely have 4 books in my household, so at least continuing with this one and potentially book 6, potentially book 7, who knows. I then also would like to continue with the Burning Kingdom series by Tasha Suri, so the Oleander Sword. This is book 2. I read The Jasmine Throne, the first book, quite a while ago now. I think it was towards the beginning of 2023, so it feels like a long time ago. And at the time I thought the series was finishing in 2023. It wasn't. I misled myself. I don't think I was like, I think I misled myself. But now that the sequel, the third and final book, is coming out towards the end of 2024, I would like to get to this. I think need to read a refresher, and part of me was hoping, as I'm going to an event with Tasha Suri on Wednesday of this coming week, that I would have read this ahead of that. It hasn't happened. But I would still like to get this in this quarter, so that by the time the third book comes out, October, November time, I will be up to date. And then one that I have also recently acquired is the 5th book in the Play to Prison series. So this one's Gold by Raven Kennedy. So I have been up to date with this series, and then this book, Gold, came out, I think it was December, in hardback, but no. All of my editions are in paperback. I was like, I'm not having a hardback, can't do it. And it's not as though they match. The hardbacks are white, the paperbacks have a black spine. Even though this has got a white cover here, they do not align. So I've been waiting for this paperback to come out, and this did come out in June and was gifted to me by my friend Fish for my birthday. So I'm now ready to dive into this one, and then the 6th and final book comes out in September. And I think, from looking at Amazon, both the paperback and hardback are launching at the same time. Amazon might be lying to me, or I might have misled myself again, but that book is coming out in September, so hopefully I can finish this series up either in this quarter or at least by the end of the year. I definitely want to read this 5th book this quarter, and then if the 6th book is this quarter or the next quarter, then great. That would get another series wrapped up. And then one that I put on my TBR for July, haven't got to it yet, but I still have half a month to go, is continuing on with the Bridge Kingdom series. So I read the original duology quite a while ago now, and then with this series it's meant to be 6 books but over 3 duologies following separate people in each duology, but with in the same world. So I do now have books 3 and 4 because I was waiting until the next duology was complete before continuing on. This second duology is now complete, and I think we've even had news on the 5th book, so definitely progress has been made in this series since I read it, or I read the original duology, so potentially continue on with this series. And then I have a couple of series that I would like to start my reread of prior to, well, for one of them prior to books coming out, and one of them the books have already come out, and I would just like to do the reread so I can finish it. One of them being the Atlas series, so the first book being the Atlas 6. I have actually, taken this book out. It started its journey. I think I've read the first couple of chapters in this. I'm just going to work through it slowly. It might be my take it to work book for a bit, but we'll see until maybe I get into it even more. This one is the reread, and then I haven't read books 2 or 3 yet. I would like to get this series wrapped up. It's been in my plans all year to wrap up this series. I haven't done it yet, but I have now started at least. And then one series where the final book's coming out in, I think it was October, is the Bloodsworn saga by John Gwynne. So I've read the first 2 books, The Shadow of the Gods and The Hunger of the Gods, and I would love to reread these as it's been a little while in preparation for that third and final book coming out. If you don't know, I love John Gwynne. I love his books. Have loved them for quite a few years now, and I do have a gush guide video to his books, so I've read everything, and I'm really looking forward to this third book coming out because it's been a couple of years, and so I would like to reread so that when I go into that third book I have just everything so fresh in my head and I'm ready. So I haven't actually ever reread a John Gwynne book. I consider myself a big fan, but I haven't reread anything. I've just read things for the first time. It is due a reread because so I can be ready for that third book, so I can be ready. And then there are a couple of releases that are coming out that will help me finish off a series, or 2 series. So in September, the third and final book in the Ending Fire series is coming out. I think it's called The Ending Fire, and that's the first book is The Final Strife by Zara El-Arifi. I'm up to date on it currently, having read books 1 and book 2, and I'm waiting for this third and final book, so reading that one will get me finished. So that is one that I will be able to tick off the list when I get to September. And then also in September, A Dawn of Gods and Fury is coming out by K.A. Tucker, the 4th book in A Fate of Wrath and Flames, the first book fantasy romance series, so I can read that as well and get that one all wrapped up. So yeah, lots of conclusions coming out, lots of my series that I've been working on concluding, so hopefully I can get a good few things wrapped up as we move into the second half of the year. I do always find that I'm better at finishing things in the second half. I start all these things in the first half and I'm so excited by all the new things, and then the second half I'm right, got to rein myself in and do the wrapping up. As I said, also potentially help the second Helm of Midnight. That one could go for that if I get my hands on it. And then just to mention something new to bring into the mix, I am planning to start Magician by Raymond E. Feist. First book in the, I'm guessing, the Magician series or the Rift War cycle saga. So this is the first book in a massive fantasy series. It's quite an old one. It's on my July TBR. I actually plan to start this later today, so we'll see how that goes. This is with my friends Fish and Sam. Would like to see how I get on with this one, which has also been on my TBR for a very long time. So this is a series that I plan to start. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if it's a start and continue on, or if it's a start and a DNF, who knows for now. But I would like to get to this one and give this one a try. And that's the only new series that I actually have written down in plans, although I feel like there probably will be other new series that get into the mix. I feel as though it's so easy to start a new series. It's so easy. They call to you, they're like, read me. So it's definitely like easy to start them. I definitely anticipate there will be other new series that you will see when I get to my check-in what was it, end of September, October. But for right now, I haven't got any listed. Just working through some of the ones that I've already started and continuing on and things. So hopefully I can do a good job of doing that, of doing the continuing over this next quarter. So let me know how your series have been going for the past few months, if you've been able to wrap things up, or if you've been like me and actually starting quite a few things and starting quite a few incomplete things, and what your plans are for the next quarter. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my future videos. Bye.